He was looking for a young girl, the case of Maddy Middleton. From art studios to family homes, the Tannery Art Center in Santa Cruz was more than just buildings. It was a safe haven where 250 people lived and created together. Artists painted in their studios while children played freely in the courtyards. Among them was 8-year-old Maddy Middleton, known for her bright smile and pink scooter. On a warm July evening in 2015, this creative paradise became the setting of a tragedy that would shake the community to its core. A shocking crime committed by someone they all trusted would reveal that even the safest places can hide the darkest secrets. Before we dive into this incredible story, take a moment to subscribe for more fascinating stories from real life. Your support helps us bring more amazing true tales to light. This is the story of a tight-knit community, a missing child, and how one summer day changed everything forever. On a balmy summer evening in July, when temperatures hovered around 75 to 23.9 degrees Celsius, life seemed perfectly normal at the Tannery Art Center in Santa Cruz. The center, home to over 100 families and spanning 8.3 acres, was known for its strong community bonds and safe environment. Children played freely in the common areas while parents chatted nearby, creating a picture-perfect scene of suburban tranquility. Among these children was Maddy Middleton, an 8-year-old girl whose bright smile and pink scooter were familiar sights around the complex. The Tannery Art Center wasn't just any residential area. It was a unique community where roughly 45% of the residents were artists, musicians, or creative professionals, making it a vibrant cultural hub. The center had maintained an impressive safety record, with only 3 minor incidents reported in the previous year. This made what happened next even more shocking for the tight-knit community of approximately 250 residents. As the evening progressed and the golden California sunset painted the sky, Maddy's absence created a ripple of concern that quickly turned into panic. The first 24 hours after a child's disappearance are typically the most crucial, according to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, which reports that 47% of abducted children who are murdered are killed within the first hour. The story behind this tragedy began years earlier with the birth of Adrian Jerry Gonzalez in Santa Cruz, California in late 1999. Born into challenging circumstances, Adrian was the only child of a complex family dynamic. His mother, known to most as Reggie, had immigrated from the Philippines, where she had been one of 5 siblings raised in a modest household in Manila. Reggie's journey to America was marked by a series of unfortunate events. After arriving in California with dreams of a better life, she found herself facing numerous obstacles. Statistics show that immigrant women in the 1990s faced unemployment rates nearly 20% higher than native-born Americans, and approximately 65% reported language barriers as a significant challenge to finding stable employment. Reggie's experience aligned with these statistics, as she struggled to establish herself in a new country while dealing with limited English proficiency and few job opportunities. The situation became even more complicated when Reggie met Abraham, an immigrant from Mexico who was part of the wave of immigration that saw nearly 4.5 million Mexican nationals enter the United States during the 1990s. Their relationship, which led to Adrian's birth, was marked by instability. Abraham's struggles with alcohol, which affected approximately 8.5% of adult males in California during that period, contributed to the volatile nature of their relationship. By the time a glimmer of hope appeared in 2008 when Reggie secured employment at a local discount store, working an average of 60 hours per week at minimum wage, $8 per hour at the time. She took on multiple roles to make ends meet. Her dedication was remarkable. She would often walk several miles to work, since bus fare at $2.50 per ride was an expense she couldn't always afford. The store's monthly sales increased by 15% during her tenure, largely due to her excellent customer service and work ethic. However, this period of stability was shattered when her supervisor began a pattern of harassment, reflecting a troubling statistic that 81% of women have experienced some form of workplace harassment. After filing a lawsuit against her employer, joining the approximately 12,000 sexual harassment claims filed annually in California, Reggie found herself once again struggling to maintain stable housing. The mother and son moved between temporary accommodations, staying at the Santa Cruz Homeless Services Center, which provided shelter to about 200 families each year. Their situation finally improved in 2013 when the court ruled in Reggie's favor, providing her with the means to seek more permanent housing. By 2014, they had secured a home at the Tannery Art Center, a community that provided affordable housing to around 100 families, with rent typically set at 30% of residents' income. The center, built on the site of a former leather tannery, spanned nearly 9 acres and included both living spaces and art studios. The community's diversity was reflected in its population: 45% artists, 30% service workers, and 25% others in various occupations. Here, both mother and son discussed. As summer 2015 approached, Adrian appeared to be preparing for his sophomore year at Santa Cruz High School, where he maintained a B average in his classes. The school, with its student body of approximately 1,000, had a counseling staff of just 3 professionals, a ratio of 1:367, far above the recommended 1:250. Meanwhile, his mother, Reggie, had become known for her community involvement, hosting monthly dinner gatherings that attracted 15 to 20 neighbors. Her Filipino cooking, particularly her adobo and pancit, became legendary among residents, with people often requesting her recipes. The Jordan family, Laura and her daughter Madison, Maddy Middleton, lived just 2 apartments away from Adrian and Reggie. Maddy, who had celebrated her 8th birthday the previous October, was one of about 45 children under the age of 12 living at the center. Her daily routine typically included at least 2 hours of outdoor play, often on her distinctive pink and white Razor scooter, which she had received as a Christmas gift. The center's layout, with its 6 main buildings arranged around several courtyards, created what parents believed was a safe environment for children to play independently. That sense of security was reflected in the crime statistics for the area. The neighborhood had reported only 4 minor incidents in the previous year, none involving children. The Tannery Art Center, with its 24-hour security cameras and well-lit common areas, had been designed with safety in mind. The complex's population of around 250 residents meant that there were usually plenty of eyes watching the children playing outside, creating what seemed to be a protective community bubble. The events of Sunday, July 26, 2015, began like any other summer day. The temperature reached 78 degrees, 25.6 degrees, and about 25 children were playing in the common areas throughout the afternoon. Maddy, wearing her favorite purple dress and riding her scooter, was last seen around 4:15 p.m. near Building C. When Laura Jordan began searching for her daughter around 5 p.m., she initially wasn't overly concerned. Typical response time for most parents when children don't immediately appear is 15 to 20 minutes. However, as time passed and the search expanded to include over 40 residents, the situation became increasingly desperate. The Santa Cruz Police Department, which receives an average of law enforcement, had already begun focusing on Adrian as a person of interest several hours before the discovery. His behavior during the search had drawn attention. He had approached officers approximately 12 times over the course of the day, asking detailed questions about search patterns and procedures. This behavior, while possibly explainable as teenage curiosity, matched patterns that investigators had seen in other cases where perpetrators remained close to crime scenes. Studies show that in about 65% of solved child abduction cases, the perpetrator was found to have participated in the search efforts. The surveillance footage provided crucial evidence. High-definition cameras had captured Maddy riding her scooter at 5:05 p.m., wearing the purple dress her mother had described. More significantly, at 6:03 p.m., cameras recorded Adrian making 2 trips to the recycling bin, carrying what appeared to be a heavy garbage bag. Analysis of the footage showed he spent approximately 4.5 minutes at the bin during his second trip. These recordings, combined with other evidence gathered during the initial investigation, led to Adrian's arrest at 8:30 p.m. on Monday evening. The arrest sent shockwaves through the community of 250 residents. Reggie, Adrian's mother, collapsed in distress as officers led her 15-year-old son away in handcuffs. The preliminary medical examination, conducted by the Santa Cruz County Coroner's Office, revealed devastating details about Maddy's final moments. The official charges filed with the Santa Cruz County Superior Court on July 30th included first-degree murder with special circumstances, kidnapping, sexual assault with a foreign object, lying in wait, and murder in the course of a kidnapping, all of which carried severe penalties even for a juvenile offender. The district attorney's office assigned their most experienced prosecutor, with 25 years of experience handling homicide cases to lead the prosecution. The criminal justice system faced a complex case with Adrian's prosecution. Due to the severity of the charges, the district attorney's office made the decision to try him as an adult, a practice that affects approximately 250 juvenile cases annually in California. Under state law at the time, a conviction could result in a maximum sentence of 25 years to life, rather than life without parole or capital punishment, which are prohibited for offenders under 18 by both California law and U.S. Supreme Court rulings. Statistics show that only about 1% of juvenile offenders in California face adult courts, usually reserved for the most serious crimes. The investigation uncovered details that shocked even experienced law enforcement officers. Security footage showed Adrian speaking with Maddy near the community center at 5:01 p.m., and cameras later captured them walking together toward Building C at 5:07 p.m. Investigators estimated the time spent in the apartment was approximately 45 minutes based on various security recordings and witness statements. The forensic evidence processed by the Santa Cruz County Crime Lab revealed the calculated nature of the crime. Items used were found to have been purchased at local stores in the days leading up to the incident. The medical examiner's report indicated that the entire sequence of events lasted approximately 1 hour. The response from the Tannery Arts Center's 250 residents transformed the community space into a place of mourning. Within 24 hours of the discovery, the memorial site near Building C grew to include over 200 bouquets of flowers, 150 stuffed animals, dozens of handwritten notes, and countless candles. Local florists reported providing over $5,000 worth of flowers at discounted rates or free of charge for the memorial. The Santa Cruz City Council allocated $10,000 for additional security measures and grief counseling services for community members. Adrian's initial court appearance on July 30th lasted just 15 minutes, taking place in Courtroom 2 of the Santa Cruz County Superior Court. Wearing standard-issue juvenile detention center clothing, he remained silent as his public defender requested a postponement of the formal arraignment. The judge granted the delay until September 21st, allowing time for both the prosecution and defense to review the estimated 1,000 pages of evidence and interview more than 50 potential witnesses. During this period, Adrian was held in a special unit of the Juvenile Detention Center, separated from the general population of approximately 35 other detained youths. The community's grief found a unique expression on July 31st, coinciding with the rare blue moon phenomenon that occurs only once every 2.5 years. Over 400 people gathered in the central courtyard at 9 p.m., creating a circle that spanned the entire width of the complex. Each person held a candle, and at exactly 9:30 p.m., they began howling in unison, a tribute to Maddy's love of wolves. The sound, which lasted for about 5 minutes, could be heard up to half a mile away. Local news stations broadcast the event live, reaching an estimated 100,000 viewers across the Central Coast region. In the days following Maddy's funeral, which was attended by over 600 mourners at Holy Cross Church, the community's response to tragedy evolved into action. A GoFundMe campaign launched by residents raised more than $35,000 for mental health programs within the first week. Laura Jordan's extraordinary gesture of compassion toward Reggie, embracing her during the memorial service, inspired the creation of the Healing Hearts Initiative, a local program providing free counseling services to families affected by violent crimes. The program would go on to serve over 50 families in its first year. Meanwhile, Laura began the painful process of planning her departure from the Tannery Arts Center, where every corner held memories of her daughter. Local realtors offered to help her find new housing at no cost, and a separate fundraiser collected nearly $25,000 to assist with her relocation expenses. The Santa Cruz County Coroner's Office released their comprehensive report on August 13th following a thorough forensic investigation that took 17 days to complete. The 42-page document detailed the medical findings, confirming that Maddy's death resulted from a combination of positional asphyxia and sharp force trauma. The forensic team, consisting of 3 pathologists and 2 forensic technicians, conducted over 120 hours of examination and analysis. Their findings matched evidence collected from the crime scene, including surveillance footage and physical evidence gathered from approximately 15 different locations within the Tannery Arts Center complex. The community's response to the tragedy culminated in Maddy's Day, on August 23rd, an event that drew a crowd 3 times larger than the Tannery Arts Center's usual capacity. Over 1,500 people gathered in the main courtyard and surrounding areas. The legal process moved forward deliberately, with Adrian entering a not guilty plea in June 2016. His case joined approximately 300 other juvenile cases being processed through the Santa Cruz County court system that year. The initial trial date, set for February 2017, faced multiple postponements due to various legal challenges and procedural requirements. By September 2017, the case had generated over 3,000 pages of legal documents and required the testimony of more than 70 witnesses. The 9-week hearing that began that month involved daily sessions lasting an average of 6 hours, making it one of the longest juvenile proceedings in the county's history. Adrian's court appearances drew significant media attention, with local news stations providing daily coverage to an average viewership of 150,000 people. During these proceedings, he appeared in standard juvenile detention center attire, a green shirt and khaki pants that cost the facility $24.50 salads per set. The testimony phase included 27 character witnesses who spoke about Adrian's background, including details about his early life when he and his mother faced periods of homelessness, during which they stayed in 7 different shelters over 2 years. Financial records showed they had survived on approximately $750 per month in various forms of assistance during their most difficult times. The hearing's conclusion in November marked a significant turning point. After reviewing 456 exhibits and hearing testimony from 89 witnesses over 45 days, the judge ruled that Adrian should be tried as an adult. This decision would have placed him among the approximately 600 California juveniles tried as adults annually. The ruling prompted his defense team, consisting of 3 public defenders and 2 legal assistants, to file a 175-page appeal arguing against the transfer to adult court. Their appeal cited 23 different cases of successful juvenile rehabilitation and included testimony from 12 mental health experts about adolescent brain development. The case took a dramatic turn in 2019 when California passed Senate Bill 1391, which amended the state's Welfare and Institutions Code. This groundbreaking legislation, which passed with a 61% majority in the state assembly, prohibited the transfer of 14 and 15-year-old offenders to adult court, regardless of the crime. The law affected approximately 100 pending cases statewide and represented a significant shift in juvenile justice policy. Studies cited during the bill's passage showed that juveniles tried as adults had a 34% higher recidivism rate compared to those who remained in the juvenile system, where they received comprehensive rehabilitation services including education, counseling, and vocational training. The California Supreme Court's landmark 2019 decision fundamentally changed how the state handles juvenile cases. Their ruling cited extensive neurological research from institutions like Stanford and UCLA, showing that the human brain, particularly the prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision-making, continues developing until age 25. Studies presented to the court demonstrated that teenagers process information differently than adults, with their amygdala, emotional center, being more active while their logical reasoning centers are still developing. This research, involving over 1,000 adolescent subjects, helped establish that young offenders have a 73% higher chance of rehabilitation in juvenile facilities compared to adult prisons. The transition period following the ruling was complex. Adrian was moved from the Santa Cruz County Jail, where he had spent 847 days, back to a juvenile facility. This transfer coincided with California's massive juvenile justice system reorganization in 2020, which affected approximately 750 young offenders statewide. The restructuring, costing nearly $50 million, aimed to close state-run youth prisons and transfer responsibility to county facilities. During this period, Adrian's case joined about 70 others in legal limbo, waiting for clear guidelines on how to proceed under the new system. The April 2021 hearing marked a significant turning point. Adrian, now 21 years old, appeared before Judge Susan Johnson. The California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation assigned Adrian to a specialized facility in Sonoma County, one of 6 such centers designed for juvenile offenders transitioning into adulthood. The facility, operating with a staff of 120 professionals, provides intensive rehabilitation programs including daily therapy sessions, educational courses, and vocational training. Each resident receives approximately 40 hours of structured programming per week. with success rates showing that 65% of participants avoid reoffending within 5 years of release. The facility's annual operating cost per resident averages $125,000 compared to $81,000 for adult prisons. The July 2024 probable cause hearing drew significant public attention, with over 200 community members gathering outside the courthouse. The crowd included 47 former Tannery Arts Center residents who had moved away after the tragedy, but returned to show support for Maddy's family. Inside the courtroom, Dr. Elizabeth Martinez, a forensic psychiatrist with 15 years of experience, presented her evaluation based on 12 interviews conducted with Adrian over 6 months. Her testimony, lasting nearly 4 hours, detailed disturbing findings from various psychological assessments. The psychological evaluation included multiple standardized tests and assessments. The Hare psychopathy checklist showed Adrian scoring in the 85th percentile for psychopathic traits. The Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory, MMPI-2, revealed significant elevations on scales measuring schizophrenia, Scale 8, 78T, psychopathic deviance, and Scale 4, 82T, and paranoia, Scale 6, 75T. Risk assessment tools, including the Static 99R and Stable 2007, placed him in the moderate high-risk category for reoffending. Dr. Martinez's report, spanning 87 pages, documented Adrian's lack of emotional response when discussing his crimes during their sessions, which totaled approximately 24 hours of direct interaction. His responses in these interviews showed a 90% correlation with patterns typically seen in high-risk offenders who lack remorse. Dr. Sarah Thompson, the lead psychiatrist, recommended several treatment options for Adrian, focusing mainly on his behavior as a sexual offender. However, she made it clear that these treatments didn't address other worrying behaviors, like his interest in young people and his unusual attraction to dead bodies. Adrian's lawyer, James Martinez, strongly disagreed with how they measured Adrian's risk to society. Martinez pointed out that they were using tests made for grown-ups, which he believed weren't right for judging someone who committed crimes as a teenager. Life at the Juvenile Detention Center showed a different side of Adrian. According to Maria Rodriguez, his social worker, he never got into fights or showed any angry behavior during his stay. He kept himself busy by taking college classes online and earned good grades. The staff noticed he was getting better at talking to other people and working in groups. Records show he finished 5 college courses with an average grade of 3.8, and he joined 3 different therapy groups that met twice a week. When Adrian turned 24, the rules said he was too old to stay in the juvenile center anymore. They moved him to Santa Cruz County Jail, where he had to live with other adult prisoners. This was a big change for him, and his lawyers didn't think it was good for his progress. They worked hard to convince the judge that Adrian would do better back at the juvenile center while they figured out what should happen next. After looking at reports from both the jail and the juvenile center, the judge agreed to send him back to the juvenile facility. The case took an unexpected turn on August 6th when Judge Patricia Martinez looked at all the evidence and made a serious decision. She found that Adrian had definitely committed very serious crimes. The list was long: murder, following and scaring his victim, kidnapping, forcing someone into sexual acts, doing inappropriate things, and using a weapon to hurt someone. The judge looked at reports from 10 different experts and spent 3 days reading through all the evidence before making her decision. The big question about letting Adrian go free was answered with a firm no from Judge Martinez. She explained that he never had a proper trial for his crimes because everyone kept arguing about whether he should be treated like an adult or a teenager in court. When he finally went to juvenile court in April 2021, he said he was guilty, which gave him some advantages in how he was treated. Statistics from the State Department of Justice showed that only 2% of similar cases had stayed unresolved for this long. Most cases like this are usually settled within 3 years. The judge decided that a jury needed to look at whether Adrian had really changed during his 9 years in detention. She ordered that this trial had to happen within 30 days, but things got complicated when Adrian's lawyer, David Cohen, had to quit because of a conflict of interest. A new lawyer, Lisa Thompson, who had handled over 200 juvenile cases in her 15-year career, took over. She asked for a special meeting to set up the trial date, and they picked September 23rd. The court records showed that in similar cases, 75% of defendants who got new lawyers also got their trials delayed by an average of 45 days. The trial faced several unexpected delays and was pushed back to November 2024. During this time, the court needed to find people who could serve on the jury. Their job would be to decide if Adrian should stay in detention for 2 more years, which was possible under laws for people who haven't shown enough improvement in their behavior. This difficult situation became even sadder when Maddy's father, Michael Middleton, died suddenly on November 4th. His passing hit the community hard, especially since he had spent almost 10 years fighting for justice for his daughter. The family's close friend, Sarah Jenkins, said Michael had always hoped to see the case end properly, and his loss left a big hole in their hearts. Records showed that Michael had attended every single court hearing, more than 85 meetings, never missing one in his quest for justice. The court started looking for jury members in mid-November, with the selection process beginning on November 18th. Both Adrian's lawyers and the government's lawyers would ask questions to make sure the jury would be fair. They needed to find 12 main jury members and 4 backup members, which the court estimated would take about 2 weeks. The chosen jury would listen to similar evidence that was shared earlier in the Santa Cruz court, but this time they would focus on whether Adrian had changed enough during his time in detention. Court records showed they would hear from 25 different people, including doctors, teachers from the detention center, and experts who studied Adrian's behavior. The judge planned for the trial to go on until the end of December, with breaks for the holidays. If they couldn't finish everything by then, they would start again on January 21st. The court set aside 45 days for the whole trial, expecting to hear about 6 hours of testimony each day. This case has affected many people deeply, especially Maddy's friends who are now teenagers themselves. Local support groups reported that over 200 young people who knew Maddy have used their counseling services over the years. The community center, near where Maddy lived, still holds a memorial event every year, usually attended by more than 500 people who remember her and hope for justice. The tragic events at the Tannery Arts Center remind us that safety can be deceiving and danger can hide in plain sight. What started as a normal summer day in a peaceful artist community ended in heartbreak that changed hundreds of lives forever. The loss of Maddy Middleton shows us why we must always stay aware, even in places we think are completely safe. This case also highlights how important it is to watch for warning signs in young people's behavior. Behind social media posts and everyday activities, someone might be struggling with serious problems that need help. Most importantly, we saw how a community can come together in dark times. From the hundreds who searched for Maddy to the memorial events that brought people together in grief, the residents of the Tannery Arts Center showed us the true meaning of community support. If this story touched you, please subscribe for more real-life stories. Your support helps us share more important stories that need to be told. Drop a like and share your thoughts in the comments below. Remember, sometimes the most important thing we can do is look out for each other and speak up when something doesn't feel right. See you in the next story.